Hi guys, and welcome. Today I'm going to be cleaning the fish tank out. It can be a job, but I'm going to show my son the ins and outs. Alright, Luke. Pay attention, son. Pay attention. Pay attention. Alright, so you see the little ship over here, huh?
Yeah, I see a little ship.
Alright.
And a catfish running by your stomach.
Well, it's kind of like caught up over here on this plant, so let's get this going. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Yeah. It has outstanding buoyancy. Look at that, look at that, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get it so it starts cycling. I'll bring it back over this way. Well, some of you may notice that I have egg crate screening running across the top of the tank. That's because at one point I had live crabs in here, and they are excellent escape artists. They can get out of almost any type of tank if you don't have it crab proof. So I ended up running eggshell crate or grid. Alrighty, then. So we got the tank open. So we gotta make some adjustments here, son. We're gonna have to.
Whoa, Dad, you said something different, like singing.
Yeah, we're gonna put the spaceship to the back here. To the back, the ship goes to the back, to the back, to the back, to the back, to the back. Okay, this is a magnet used for scrubbing. Oh, just love that sound. Scrubbing the glass because it'll have algae on it. You can get an algae eater, or you can treat the water for algae. I'm going to treat the water for algae because I no longer have algae eater fish in here any longer. So just go back and forth with it, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Look at that, look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Why not? I can barely see stuff.
So we're gonna scrub, we're gonna scrub, we're gonna scrub. This is like a 120-gallon tank, so they say. So it's listed as a 120.
Well, that catfish again.
Yes, me and more like a 220.
That catfish scared me.
By the time you get done working on it, that's what it'll feel like. Alright, so you want to get all this algae and goo off.
The fishes think you're taking down their tank.
Yeah, they'll be okay. So just scrub, 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 scrub.
They will not be able to smell.
Alright. So now we get to the interesting part, because when I lifted the grid up, I pulled too high and my filter, it pulled in a little bit of air. So I'll be right back.
Look at all that goo right there and down in that fan. I'm not seeing all that.
Alright guys, so we're gonna get back to the job at hand here. Alright, so this is an adapter that goes on to your water tap on your sink faucet. So you can attach a hose to it. So I have probably about maybe 10 foot of hose that I run from the sink into this tank. And I can fill it a whole lot faster versus dumping buckets of water in here. All right, So I'm gonna go get this set up right quick, and I'll be right back.
A pot.
A what?
A pipe.
No, it has pipe. All right, this thing is gonna suck the trash off the bottom of the tank. So you can get these devices relatively easy off the internet, and what happens, you run this across the bottom, it'll suck up all the trash and whatever you have at the bottom of your tank, fish food, fish poo,
Let's see
you
what
name
it can do.
It'll bring it up through the tube, and it'll bring it out into like, if you have a catch bucket, or if you can also use this thing in the siphon to drain the tank. I've done that too with this device. But what I'm going to use it for today is to get the algae down off the bottom of, on the rock bed, on the sand. We're going to pull all that algae out of there. And after we do that, we'll fill it back up again. Stay tuned. Well, the YouTubers, I have come up with a problem.
What's the problem?
The problem is I have to take the grid out.
Go away, fly! Go away! Shoot, fly!
Shoot fly?
Shoot, fly.
So we're gonna reduce the length of this. Let me look at something real quick.
Well, Daddy, we need a smaller chair.
It's gonna be a job. This is definitely gonna be a job. Cut. Right. We're gonna see if we can't get this cipher set up on here. And I'll be paying attention to the cipher and the water level at the same time. Putting this up. Let's see if we can get better suction now. Showing it just a little more. Oh yeah, that should get it right there. And here we go. While this is pumping back in some of the water I took out, I'm going to make some adjustments on this setup here. We're going to try to see if I can't get this to kind of blend down a little bit, because the algae is just so thick, so I'll probably have to end up treating it with the chemical. Because when I was trying to pull it out with the vacuum, that was just not gonna work. So when you get algae and it's starting to grow out on the plants, the best way to really get rid of the algae is to take the plants out try to avoid putting harsh chemicals on the plants, because if we put it back inside of the water, it could actually kill your fish. So if you do decide to use like a strong chemical to kill the algae, like bleach or whatever, you really want to wash it well and let it sit for a couple of days before you put it back inside of the tank to prevent killing the fish. Right, so what I'm in the process of doing now is trying to spread some of this sand back out. I have some catfish in here, the miniature catfish. They swim real fast, and they move so fast they kick up a lot of the sand and leaves a trail back to where they like to hang out at. Their little lair, I guess you can call it. So we'll smooth this back out. Try to get some of this sand back in the back here. Because they have really done a number back here. I mean, there's hardly no sand back here. Move that over. Fill this in. Now, it's going to take my water filtration system a couple hours to get this back clear like it should be. But it will end up clear again. So, on that note, stay tuned for more. Yeah! Guess who's back? So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna top this old water level off here. So I'm gonna start adding the water. I'm gonna make a couple more adjustments and we will start to fill the tank. All right. Kind of got my Atlantis theme going on here. So with that being said, maintenance is a must. Maintenance is a must. Alrighty. So I need to reapply the airline for the spaceship. So we'll make the adjustments for that. So while I have the opportunity, let me go ahead and start the water flow. Now, if you're using tap water, make sure that you treat your water with stress coat. Make sure you treat your water with stress coat because it eliminates the chlorines, and most of the chlorine and chlorides in drinking water will kill fish. So just get you a good cap full. Dump in the water. But since I have such a large tank, I like a little added protection, so I usually do about a cap and a half. Got your little measuring cap there. Dump it in the water. And that'll eliminate all the chlorine in the water. Because, like I said before, it will kill your fish, and tropical fish are real finicky when it comes to chlorine and chloride in the water. All right. It's coming together right nicely, I think, right nicely. So we're gonna move this bush here around. I'm trying to actually put like a real clear spot back here in the back so the UFO can just land behind the shrubbery here and not get caught up on anything. But from time to time the line will drift. And as you can see, I have a big huge statue of Poseidon back here that the UFO tends to find its way to hover back on and drop right onto the statue and get caught up. So it's a motion air bubbler. And how this thing works, air goes inside the line, and as the air goes inside the line, it'll go inside of this chamber. And as soon as it goes in this chamber, this little floaty ball, it'll start going to the top. And as it goes to the top, and as soon as it makes it to the top, it'll cause the whole ship to, and that'll make it come back down and start the cycle all over again. It's pretty interesting. The fish, they seem not to mind it being in the tank. So every time I put something new inside of the tank, the fish, they come to inspect what I put in. All right, so we're gonna get this back up under the hood. We're gonna get an air line put back in. As soon as I can find that airline hole. Alright, we'll just make it go right there. But in all actuality, I really can probably have that airline come through this back here. Because I already have a hole grooved out in it for an airline, so we'll just do that. No need to really put it up front. So it's just aggravating when it's time for me to do the maintenance on this tank. So we'll toss that back in there. And this airline wants to do what it wants to do. And we'll get that stuck back on there. And something else that you should know about fish, aquariums and fish. Whenever you're handling them, you're handling the water, you're handling anything dealing with these fish. You make sure after you're done, you wash your hands thoroughly. Do not put your hands in your mouth at all, because you can get sick and catch diarrhea from the water. So that's something I thought I'd just share with you. So, all right, so we're going to wrap this filling process up. But while I'm in the process of doing this, I'm going to share something with you. Let me tell you how this tank became. How did I get my hands on such a large tank? Years ago, so how this tank was purchased, I ended up getting my hands on some very large fish called Oscars. I mean, they were like extremely huge. They're probably like that. I had 4 of them. So even 4 Oscars of that size, this tank still wasn't big enough, but I managed. And I had those Oscars and I had algae eaters, better known as plecos. Special ordered, they were about that long, man. They about that big around. They look like little catfish. And I wasn't really worried about having a real decked out tank at the time. So I just used the tank just to have the fish in there, just to say I, had the fish. So I went on a trip and it was an older house, so I had it fumigated. I fumigated the house and I put the air supply box outside. I ran a long line outside with the air box to pull air from outside. And decided to go out of town for 2 days. Well, on that second day I was out of town, it was a freeze over. Pop-up surprise freeze over. And me having that box outside, I already knew what the outcome was for my fish. And by the time I got back to the house, all the fish were dead, frozen, solid, except for one of the plecos. It survived. Because they're all tropical fish. That pleco, or algae eater, most people call them, it survived for like another 6 months and then it decided to kick the bucket. But when it comes to these fish, they're fragile in a sense. Some of the toughest fish are goldfish, believe it or not. They can get extremely big. I mean, the biggest fish I've seen is the size of your hand. And that was a goldfish. So, I mean, it's a pretty interesting thing to do to maintain one of these tanks. You won't get much action out of fish. They are known as the most boringest pet to have, but some of these fish, they'll actually start to form little personalities. If you watch them long enough, feed them, they'll let you know when they're ready to eat. So. I need a